Hello, and welcome to the ones who think but do not know. I'm your host, Curtis Rolton. I'm also here joined by Robert, and today we are discussing we're starting a series of podcasts known as the election debrief, which is a thinly veiled attempt at me to do things after the election. Why do we do things after the election? Well, the academic answer is to get a broader understanding of what's going on in the electorate and the effects of what happened afterwards. The real answer is I couldn't organise anything during the election, so we're doing it afterwards. So
Well done. Now we have really impressed you.
hope you guys enjoy this brief overview of what we are doing. Of our thoughts and feelings towards the British general election 2024. Now, we will in this program, in this pod even, we will be giving a brief a brief overview of the trends that occurred on election night, what we think of the result, how we think the result will affect British politics in the future, and what the state of play is for all the major and minor parties, because I think they are a key minor
this is the
parties.
400-page prologue.
The voice you can hear is my esteemed colleague, Mr. Robert. Almost said your second name then, even though we agreed not to.
I don't care.
Robert Upperback.
Oh, it's awful. That is awful. Alright.
So we will be discussing the polls and the trends, and so do you want to just take it away by just explaining where we were before election?
Well,
by we, I mean like the state of political play.
well, of course, before the election results, we had a strong Conservative majority, despite a few by-elections, which we covered, which people can see.
Twice.
Yeah. You can see that if you want.
In the first video, we made some.
Yeah, let's not. We did say that Keir Starmer would never ever come to power, and we did say that there's more chance of, I don't know, Boris Johnson winning 3 times.
A third term, and here we are.
Yeah, and now.
Here we are.
He's actually won.
And we also said, I think I made a joke about it not coming home, and then never coming home. So
yeah, and then you were at the coming home party.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
So our predictions were completely wrong.
Yeah.
We were under a strong Conservative government though at the time. There was no sign during Boris Johnson's era that there was going to be any let-up.
It was. Here's the thing: you could break down the Johnson era into two things: pre-Partygate and post-Partygate.
Yeah.
Pre-Partygate, he was strong, and it was kind of COVID.
I mean, we had a phase of bulletproof Boris, didn't we? For a second, he was completely immune to scandal.
And here's
criticism.
The thing: COVID was in the early stages, it was a great unifier for the country. What I mean by that is he kind of. I hate to use the word Churchill.
Statesman act.
Churchill, in fact, but there was a hint of that, and that he was.
That's what maybe he was acting up to. He tried to. He's addressing the nation and clearly setting the scene as a national crisis. We might say a bit very, very, very late into the virus's progress in this country, but that kind of brought a lot of people together, I think.
Yeah.
And there was a sense that during that time he was encouraging the whole nation to act like collectively, follow the rules,
Yeah.
and do essentially what he asked, and
And
we managed to do it.
and even when there were 2021 scandals, like for example the Matt Hancock affair, Johnson was able to take the moral high ground throughout the Matt Hancock affair.
Yeah.
And
And he survived that. In fact, the number of things he dodged. I mean, he tried to prorogue Parliament that he got away with that attempt. He try to ask the Queen to
prorogue Parliament.
prorogue Parliament, and it wasn't legal. The judges.
Yeah, no,
said
anyone else would have resigned at that point.
Yeah, the
Boris
judges said
was
no.
like,
He had a Brexit. He had a lot of. Some would say, how do we put it? A lot of bluster about getting Brexit done straight away.
yeah, no.
That did not happen.
He was. We wouldn't exactly call him a cross on the detail.
Yes, he didn't really make any friends in Europe. He didn't have the ability to negotiate, get where he wanted.
Yeah, no.
Until much later, and then he passed his bill in 2020. It was passed in 2018, but it became law.
It became law, and no, it wasn't passed in 2018. It was passed
2019.
2021.
2021.
Yeah.
Brexit.
No, the Brexit deal, because the deal happened a few years after Brexit. Remember?
Right. Yeah.
So it became into effect.
They declared that they had left.
The deal came into force in early 2021.
So that was even after his COVID debacle. Speaking of which, we got to that point.
And then in around early 2020, I believe it was late 2021, early 2022, we started to hear rumours about parties, and that really...
And the nation had gone through 2 lockdowns, right?
And that really shattered the kind of the public image of Boris Boris and the Conservative Party as a trustworthy
leader. Anyway, the Conservatives sort of after the public pressure became too great.
Yeah, and there was the day of 60 cabinet resignations. And when he said them's the breaks because of his famous pinch, like the funny thing was, it wasn't even Partygate that got rid of him. It was Pincher by now.
I think Partygate.
Well, Chris Pincher.
Partygate got him onto the threshold. I think Pincher was the straw that broke the camel's back. He said, them's the breaks. Well, them's was the breaks.
Them's was the breaks.
Them's was the breaks when he lost most of his cabinet. We had resignation after resignation, day after day, and that ultimately.
But what I mean is,
and a lot of these people immediately ran.
There was like a 48-hour period in which 67 cabinet ministers resigned.
Yeah.
Now that is unheard of in British politics.
Now, Britain's usually it's very stable. The cabinet is controlled by the prime minister. You don't have mass exodus. You have occasionally he removes people. Occasionally people step down, but you don't get that.
Now the interesting thing is how the Conservative Party reacted to Boris's exit. They installed someone.
Well, so a lot of people went down with Boris. I mean, like Nadeem Dorries, there was Jacob Rees-Mogg, who were solid supporters, and various other people who were very supportive of Boris when he left. but mostly they had already left because of
because they wanted their own leadership.
Yeah, or they were supporting someone. So
now there were many front runners, but it got whittled down to 2 in the end.
Yeah, Liz Truss on the one side, Liz Trust.
In Liz we trust.
And then there was
Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
Now these two characters, we will be.
Well, Liz Truss basically, she
well,
won.
well.
Because the members voted. None of us voted for it. It was just a Conservative membership, which is very small number of people. Basically, chose our next leader.
I had no idea she was going to be as bad as she was.
No, nor did I. To be honest, I think that the Conservative membership was so small that people started to ask whether it was a proper democracy. If not like a real democracy, we don't doubt that the UK is a democracy, but whether it was functioning,
we both voted.
Whether it was functioning in the way that it should have been. That wasn't a democratically chosen leader, according to a lot of people. But then, according to the rules, it's not supposed to be like that. I mean, the term of Boris Johnson hadn't finished. I mean, you can take whatever view you want. Obviously, it wasn't nice for the rest of us, but those are the rules.
Yeah, like
if Labour had,
like if Keir gets hit by a bus, I'm not going to, like. What do people want? Do people want a national?
An immediate general election is not going to happen because both parties are going to have there's not going to be the real choice was whether the Conservative parliamentarians were going to choose or just the people in general. What I mean is that the House of Commons, people said, should have had a more informed view of who the leaders would have been, and they should have decided it amongst themselves. There was a lot of infighting in the parliamentary Conservative Party, there wasn't there?
Yeah, and Liz Truss, as we all know, did a mini budget which did a run on the pound, and then.
Yeah, we have had a lot of runs on the pound, but that was quite spectacular. The reason being, she was only in office for for a short period of time before that. She lasted 40-something days, didn't she?
Yeah, 3 of which were in state mourning, so...
Yeah, less than 50 days. And then the Queen died on
her third day.
On her third day. She...
Not saying she killed the Queen.
No one said that until now.
I'm not saying that.
No, what we are saying is that that's a lot to deal with for a leader, right?
Yeah, well, she did a good job of... she certainly made the most of her time in office and made an impact. Funnily enough, I told you I ran into her.
Yeah.
Shortly after she came out from America. Yeah. Like, when I say ran into her, I was going shopping, and her security moved me out of the way.
Yeah.
So, afterwards, kind of the tour after her 45, or was it 50? Hang on.
No, it was just under 50.
Yeah, I believe it's 45 days. Yeah, no, I'm 45 days were up. Then,
44 days. You were slightly off.
44 days were up. Then the Tory party kind of floundered around and went to install Rishi Sunak, a man no one voted for.
Again, was not a very democratic transition of power, but he was the only alternative for a lot of people, at least in the Conservative Party, parliamentary party. He took over. I mean, he was between him and her at the end. So, I mean, he got what he wanted slightly later. He had not a very long run because technically, he was still in Boris's term. So
he had about 18 months, and not a great 18 months.
I mean, if we think about it, Boris's term ended on the 4th of July. That was still, well, it wasn't Boris's term, but the Conservative Party had that mandate. But it was still within Boris's election, so they were still in his shadow. Rishi Sunak did not have a mandate of his own, nor did Liz Truss. So it felt like decades. It felt like years and years.
Yeah,
and
like
years.
guys, we can't stress enough how much. I mean, well, if you're British, you probably know what it felt like.
For years and years. And you had Brexit before
this
that.
This countdown to a general election. Yeah. Okay, before we talk about the general election, we have to talk about the general election launch.
Yes. And then
Rishi
one day,
Sunak
Rishi Sunak
in the rain.
Rishi Sunak called a surprise general election. A lot of people said that he was trying to call it at
that
time.
Things can like.
Yeah. All right. Wait. Rishi Sunak called the general election. He called it early. He called it in the summer. People thought he was going to hold on until the Tories. They had until the winter.
They had until January 25th next year.
Right.
Legally.
They decided to bring it forward. And a lot of people may have registered in a different place or might not have got their ID sorted out.
That's what happened to me. That's why
or the postal votes, they might not have sorted that out. All kinds of things.
Yeah, no, and then that's what happened to me. That's why I had to stay where I did.
Yeah, so the Conservatives, they had they were in a difficult patch, but clearly maybe his experts have told him that it can only get worse. Things can only get worse.
And things got worse because on the day he announced it, there's this now famous shot, I'm sure you were aware of, just him in the rain announcing it. And then a certain tune starts playing, and it's Things Can Only Get Better, the Labour's famous 97 victory tune. And you can see a small part of Sunak dies when that starts playing, and it's in the rain, and it's just like...
It wasn't a good announcement.
What is this?
He had made his mind up. There was a scandal about the date of the election, wasn't there?
We need to talk about bets. Let's talk about...
Like, I mean, at the Conservative campaign, the bets were off. They had a complete, I don't know, situation with their own insiders betting that the election was going to be when it was. With knowledge, knowing that Rishi Sunak planned to announce it at that time.
Yeah, and it's just like to think that they did not think that was going to get out. But
and it shows the kind of impunity that people were talking about in Partygate, that politicians in the Conservative Party seem to believe that they can do what they want, or people who are close to the Prime Minister think that they can do anything, and that no one will check them for it later.
And and it really kind of helped cement this kind of Tory sleaze.
Yeah, this kind of narrative that the Tories are
sleazy.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of narrative, we're going to skip forward a bit to, like, there was, like, the polls were all over the place. There was talk about Davey being leader of the opposition. I mean, that was something that I was personally quite keen on. And you were quite keen on, Ed Davey, Keir Starmer. Could you imagine that? Like,
so the polls soon after he announced it were sort of, well, we looked at a YouGov poll around nearer the time. It looked like Labour was going to come out on top, and they did. And they did. They did. They were out on top for a long time. polling at maybe 44%.
It got better than.
Well, eventually they ended up, in the 48%, which is very high for, for
British,
British. And the other parties were at, the Conservatives were at 20%, lower than 20%. It was really...
Yeah, it was a...
People were questioning, why has he announced it at this time?
I mean, there's an argument to be made. I still believe that he did think do you think he knew he was going to lose?
Yeah, maybe.
Do you think he wanted out? I think he wanted out.
Yeah.
Do you think he was just like...
I mean, he is still having to stay on as the leader and as an MP.
No, but he's caretaker leader.
Yeah, they're actually announcing they're going to have a process to select the next leader, so he's not running for the next one.
Oh, it could be Badnock in our constituency.
Yes, you're actually in Badnock's constituency, aren't you?
Yeah, we are broadcasting this
from the former front bench, former ministers. Constituency.
Yeah, she's in the shadow cabinet.
Yeah.
I think she...
Yeah, she's in the shadow cabinet.
I will have a look at the... yeah, so Labour did fall short of...
the vote share that they were predicting. There were some wild polls, weren't there? What are some of the polls that you saw, roughly?
Like, Tories down to 60, I think.
Yeah, and I think the Labour were really coming in at like 45%, 44%. BBC or YouGov or one of these kind of the large polling companies were really had this kind of view that it was just going to be a huge Labour landslide. The Conservatives were going to be reduced. Some of the polls we looked at were crazy. The Conservative seats share was going to be tiny.
Like down to like 4.
Yeah, some polls were really crazy. I mean, not the main polling companies, but some of them were saying like, oh, the Conservatives are going to become like a minor party, a small...
I mean, that would have been interesting to see.
Yes, because the Conservative Party, it's been argued, is the natural party of government. If you think about the number of Labour governments that have been in power, we've had Blair, who won 3 election victories, and Brown was still in his term. So after that, there was nothing. Before this general election, and before that, we hadn't had that many Labour leaders.
Yeah, no, I mean, we had 2 in the 70s.
So it doesn't
really...
No,
3 in the 70s and 60s.
It doesn't really kind of compare.
There he is, Keir Starmer.
So, the results of the general election were quite dramatic. They actually did. Some of the polls were quite accurate. In terms of seat share.
But Labour did fall short of its. Labour fell short of its. 97%.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have made the point of saying Corbyn actually got more.
He got a larger percentage of the vote.
But if you look at where Labour targeted, then it's because
Corbyn really had a great appeal amongst the younger people who are obviously spread out, whereas the Labour campaign was targeted to certain regions, and that tells you a lot about class de-alignment, about the tendency of working class people to vote in either right or left.
Do you think class is a thing?
Yes, class is definitely a thing. Class voting is less strong.
Well, like when I say class, I mean class in this context.
Yeah, in terms of voting, it's declined. I mean, if you look at how they used to vote during this 1970s or 1980s, the class was the main factor during, let's say, around 83 or that sort of time. Since then, it's declined. and you see Labour leaders becoming having more appeal with the middle class, to the point where in the last two general elections before this one, they didn't have an equal number of middle class and lower and working class votes, but it came relatively close to that. It was almost like they had almost half of their votes were coming from middle class.
I've been to Labour events, and they are quite
middle class.
Yeah, no, but they.
Yeah, I mean, it depends where you go. But obviously the cities, urban areas are also a Labour stronghold. But it was the young.
Also, I think another. Sorry, no, go on.
It was the young that really he galvanised. That was kind of what the election was known for. We're talking about the 2019 general election.
Yeah,
and even the 2017 general election.
I thought in 2019, I didn't think he was going to win. I was in the minority of my friends thinking he wasn't going to win. Did you think he was going to win?
No, not at all. Because I think personally he was very, very unpopular outside of these large urban areas. Outside of some very young already left-wing people.
We're looking at an election map while we're recording this, and you can just see the story of the night is also, it's not just Labour's success, it's how the Lib Dems have shattered the blue wall in the south west of England.
Yeah, well, it's not exactly the blue wall though, isn't it? If you look at the seats that have changed hands, of course, you are right that there's a lot of seats that have changed hands in the southwest, but the Lib Dems have traditionally been successful in that area.
But
you look at the number of red seats that are in the southwest in Cornwall.
Cornwall has never been
Truro. You get outside of the cities like Cardiff, London, all of these places. It's unusual.
Labour Canterbury.
Yeah.
And also.
No, Canterbury is not Labour.
Yeah, Canterbury is Labour.
Is it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Canterbury.
No, it's not Canterbury.
No, Canterbury. Labour hold.
All right.
There you go.
So
no, wait. Also, another great Labour victories. Other Labour victories include interesting places which are not traditionally Labour, such as Southend and Colchester. Colchester's been blue for 70 years.
Yeah.
And
although we did have so the Conservatives had it from all sides. So they had Labour, charging. You had Lib Dems treading behind Labour, picking up areas where the people thought that the Conservatives are never ever going to win here.
And then I think you've got one Green gain from Labour, but
one Green gain.
Green gain from Tory rather.
Yeah, you get some Green. Yeah, well, we had 4 Green seats.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to work out whether any of them are, whether all of them are Labour damage or some of them are.
No, one's North Hertfordshire.
Is that a Tory gain or is it a Labour gain?
Green gain from Conservatives. So there are some going straight to a party that has been known to be much more
to the left
than even the Labour Party.
Like their leader, their co-leader, named Bristol Central, Cara Del, hang on. The co-leader of the Greens.
Are you going to look it up now? Well, they can tell you look it up.
No. Yeah, well, it will come to me. The co-leader of the Greens, famous. This is how left wing she described in an interview on LBC nuclear weapons as self-harming and self-destroying because it's creating a target for ourselves.
Like, it's a common position in the UK, though, isn't it?
It's not that common.
I think so.
It's
definitely not the majority. It's not close to being the majority, but it's definitely a big group of people who would say that sort of thing.
Yeah, but she's very strict. She's very like.
Oh yeah, what's their commitments to the military at the moment?
Now they've changed that. They no longer want to get rid of our military.
And I think that's part of the will to power. Once you get a seat or two.
Once you get a seat or two, then things change because.
Yeah, there are a certain number of thresholds. You get one seat. You've still got one main candidate who's got his personal views, and then or her personal views. Then, down the line, once you get about 5 seats, upwards of 5, then you've got to really think that you're now an electoral. You're now on the leaders' debates. You're being seen as a potential leader of several MPs. You have to drop a lot of values.
A lot of key values, and it's clear that the Greens are at that part in their political evolution where they adapt and change to a more mature kind of politic.
Mainstream, maybe not appealing just to younger voters. You're going to talk about regional.
No, yeah, I will. In a second. Cara Denver. Cara Denver. Co-leader of the Greens.
That's a strange system they have, isn't it?
Yeah, like, what happens if they ever, God forbid, they ever get into government?
Well, that's you putting your stuff out there. Yeah.
No.
But what would happen?
No. What I mean that on a practical level.
What are they going to do?
Who would be prime minister?
What are they going to do when it all goes to when they ask who's going to be the leader of the party when there's prime minister? Are they going to have 2 prime ministers? Are you going to have 2 party leaders but 1 prime minister? Who's going to speak as party leader in parliament? What's going to happen?
It's weird, you aware of the SDLP?
Yes.
The former thing that happened.
Yeah.
Before the Lib Dems.
Yeah.
They broke away from the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Bernard Jenkins and that whole thing.
Yeah.
They had a party leader, and then they had a prime minister designate.
Yes. Well, I guess they were trying to break away from.
They're like, yeah, you can be party leader, but you can be prime minister designate, and I just find that system so strange.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, no. Let's first talk about some of the interesting seats. What I mean by interesting seats is let's talk about some of the big names in British politics that were ousted, and outed.
So
that night. Firstly, let's talk about first and foremost. Let's talk about.
Is Truss?
No.
She kept her seat.
No, she lost her seat.
Did she lose her seat?
Yeah, she lost her seat. We will talk about her in a minute because that was brilliant. When she lost her seat, the Labour candidate actually went so much for a safe seat. Yeah, she turned to her and went so much for a safe seat. Also, speaking of, I mean, like safety wise, that it was a night of big political change in the United Kingdom. But like a lot of famous parliamentarians lost their seats. I remember the first one I watched because I was at a watch party, and there was a lot of cheering when Grant Shapps lost his seat, because he lost it by quite a margin. I don't. His seat name escapes me, but I believe it's somewhere up north. I'm gonna just double check Grant Shapps' seat, but um. Yeah, no, I mean he lost it by. Sorry, that's my mobile.
It's good, well.
No, he lost it by quite the
Hatfield.
Hatfield West, yeah, not up north at all. But anyway, um, yeah, I'm great at geography. Like he does not look happy there. Like the man um
Yeah.
who's well and truly lost his seat.
Yep, that is what happened. So
No, yeah. Thanks for.
so what do we have next?
No, well. I mean, it was interesting if we look at some of the margins, how tight. But one of the trends, sorry, what I was saying is one of the themes that I really picked up on, because at the election party they had a big screen when we were watching the news, yeah.
Yeah.
And as the count started coming in, I started noticing that every time Labour won, the person in second was always Reform. And that was when I noticed, Reform are actually doing quite well tonight, and we need to look at them because they're going to be a contender.
Yeah, well, the funny thing that happened with Reform is the vote share. Same with UKIP when they won 14% or so in 2015. Now they've won
How much?
about 4 million people. They've got 4 million voters, but they only had a few seats.
I mean, and that's the old point about proportional representation. Now, the Lib Dems have gone surprisingly quiet on proportional representation over the past week. A 72% seat share in an election will do that to you, won't it?
Yeah.
So they've gone quiet on proportional representation, but Reform's interesting. I still find it interesting in a way. I don't think they would have got half as much as they have now without Farage. I think a lot of this is personal appeal to Farage. What do you think?
I think, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, did you see how well they were doing under
Tice.
And Tice was, asked, is he coming back? And he didn't have the strength to say no. And then clearly he's being mentored by Farage. And then Farage just steps in with no questions asked. And
Here's the thing.
Tice was probably a puppet for
Here's the thing.
him.
Do you think Tice was okay with that? I mean, obviously, publicly, they've got to show.
I don't think Tice was ever a serious candidate. I doubt he would be surprised by the nature of the relationship, right? He's there as a stand-in for a short while.
So you think that was always...
I'm not sure if he always planned to come back into office, but I'm sure that Tice was a Farage stand-in. He would parrot similar views. That's my view.
So wait, what you're saying is Tice was the plan was Tice was always roommate.
Yes, effectively, he didn't not really. He did not have to like say anything that novel. I mean, he had to win a few seats, but he wouldn't never deviate from the views of the real leader.
Of because obviously, you know, there could be a thought to think, oh, it's interesting to see there's now a split on the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
You know,
West and East.
It's like the Berlin Wall.
No, it's not. There's no wall. Anyway.
Hang on, I'm just curious to see them.
Oh, the West has gone red, and that was the Labour game from Conservative.
Wait, what's the majority? Just out of curiosity. Oh, wait, if you know if. Oh!
No, that's total seats.
Sorry about that weird noise.
So they won. He won by 3,000, nearly 200. So 3,000.
Oh, so it's pretty safe.
Yeah. So anyway.
But no, because Tice is now Tice is now a
candidate.
No, he's now a
MP.
It escaped me again because it was Hartlepool, but now it's not.
Richard Tice.
Richard Tice is famous because his current partner is Isabel Oakeshott, otherwise known as the journalist.
The leakiest journalist on the planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boston and
Skegness.
Would that website say his majority?
No, I'm.
No.
Boston and Skegness.
Out of why don't you?
Yeah, I mean Boston and Skegness was one of the most heavily Brexit voting seats. Yeah, so he had about 2,000 votes more than the last guy. He won with 15,000 and a half votes. So he won by not a huge margin, but he won with enough. Definitely. But it was one of the major Brexit voting constituencies, and that's the same, to be honest. If you look at, I mean, basically, Reform UK is just UKIP, the new face. So all of the places that they've gained were very strongly Brexit voting seats.
I am surprised by Great Yarmouth.
Yeah, because it's a large immigrant population, but they probably can't vote. So there you go.
And it's the chairman of their football club, I believe.
Yes.
That's their new candidate.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, you've got to work with what you have.
Their new MP. Well, no, he's better than some of the Reform
Anyway,
candidates.
well, there was a big issue about racism in Reform,
and
to which Nigel Farage said never.
Never, no racism.
Although, you know, the Conservatives have also been vocal on immigration. They've managed to lose this argument to Reform. He's just more convincing. I mean, everyone knows Nigel Farage is much more hardline on immigrants than any Tory. So there was even a question of whether he would actually join the Tory party or lead it.
He literally spent half of the campaign rolling around in an armoured vehicle in the streets of Clacton. I'm not even joking.
Yeah,
his personal appeal is like
a large part of the party's appeal.
Farage is an easy man to mock, but he's pretty politically astute.
Yeah, I think it's mostly personal appeal for him. But yeah, the racism issue was there. The Conservatives really have not. I just thought it was crazy that he was billed to maybe even be the leader of the Conservatives by a few people. I mean, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy to think it's weird because he's occupied a strange position in British politics for a long time as a player, but as a commentator, but not a player because he's not been in Parliament for a while.
Yeah.
I mean,
but his voice has always been there on the leadership debates. I felt like he got a lot more.
I mean, he was.
Attention than anyone else.
Well, he's a great orator. I'm not a fan of his, but
I mean, he's got a wide appeal. But then, reform has got a good strategy because in a way, they helped Labour win by taking lots of votes away from the Conservatives, a lot of votes. But at the same time, by helping a Labour government to come to power, they just allowed themselves to occupy some sort of fringe position, almost pushing the Conservatives further right in order to compete with Labour. It's not that they worry about Reform winning, but they worry about Labour winning, and therefore they have to imitate Reform, which is a smaller party. And this is the amazing dynamic that can appear in the UK system, which just doesn't exist in the US or any other system where they have two parties or few parties.
And it's interesting because it's like how smaller parties can shape the narrative much more.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Reform, basically in every seat that Labour took, Reform came second. There were times in Tory safe seats which Labour took. It was a two-horse race between Labour and Reform.
Yeah.
Especially in some of those northern seats.
Yeah.
Now, we are going to talk briefly about our own county of Essex, which
an interesting study in what's happened.
18 constituencies.
And it's been conservative, very strongly so for a long time.
But that has radically changed because if you look at it, like, it has been, like, Essex is about as blue as you can get, and,
I mean, Chelmsford, for example, before this general election had only been Liberal Democrat. No, not Liberal Democrat, even Liberal, for 2 years in its history, and those were not consecutive. So that was by-election, just before election.
And it was... Yeah, you can tell how far away that was by our use of the term liberal.
Instead of Liberal Democrats.
And it was, there's an old joke, Chelmsford used to be something before it was Tory, it was Whig.
Yeah.
Like,
there was nothing, there was nothing really standing in the Conservatives' way. I mean, we often elect Lib Dem councils.
Yeah.
But that's just because of the competence of whatever candidate was running at that particular time.
It's weird because that's the same about Basildon and Billericay and so on. These places often have Labour-run authorities.
Yes.
Or Liberal Democrat-run authorities. But the people have struggled to go all the way with voting.
The reason we're talking about Essex is because in the northeast of Essex we've got Clacton.
It's got kind of
Clacton, which is Reform. We have Colchester and South End and Rochford, which is Labour. We've got lots of blue seats surrounding Chelmsford, which is Lib Dem.
It seems to be, and Chelmsford was famous for. If you had a cabinet minister, it was famous that you'd give them a seat in Essex. Sorry, I meant to say Essex when I said Chelmsford. No, but what if you had a cabinet?
Our Chelmsford Conservative MP used to be as a minor cabinet member.
I know. Saffron Walden still.
Saffron Walden was until this general election happened. So
yeah,
it's
it's ironic.
And even Saffron Walden, she only escaped by the skin of her teeth.
Yeah, and I'm here to look that. I'm here to.
Yeah, the issue is
the thing, and the chairman of the Conservative Party was even parachuted in to Billericay and Basildon.
Yeah.
Because he was.
Because South Basildon is now reformed.
No, but it was perceived as safer than his his northern seat.
Yeah, and Basildon Billericay is now Conservative, so he's managed to escape the fate of many Conservative ministers who lost their seats.
No, because I thought it was Labour. I thought it was Reform.
That's South Basildon. Basildon is Conservative. But if you look at the West Essex and you look at Saffron Walden, these Kemi Badenoch won with 19,000 votes.
Look at that vote share though.
And Izzy Waite came in with 16,000 votes. The vote share was difference between 35% and 30% pretty much. So between her and the next candidate,
minus 36.
Yeah. So really, it was not a huge difference. And often what you have is
and Izzy Waite is 21.
So often what you have is in the UK is a plurality of votes. So not an absolute majority, but just more than any other single party. And then that is the only thing represented from that constituency is the leading party, and that's it. That's what you get. And this is a system that's opposed by many people, including the Lib Dems.
They've gone strangely quieter.
Because of their success.
Now we have to talk about the other great losers of the evening.
SNP.
The SNP.
SNP have had.
No, the SNP have had a they've had an interesting year, haven't they?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, often the SNP has joined in criticising the Conservative Party for their sleaze, for its trading leaders every now and then. Shortly afterwards, they lost quite a lot of leaders. So they had Nicola Sturgeon.
Yeah, she had to step down.
down.
In an unrelated.
Because her husband happened
to. She stepped down citing tiredness. Yes. In an unrelated note, about 6 weeks later, her and her husband were arrested for fraud. That had nothing.
Yeah, her husband being the chair of her party and her being first minister.
No, she was also the head of the finance.
Yeah,
he was the head of.
And he was he was the party treasurer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no conflict
between the party leader and treasurer, and then he got caught for that. The police dug up her garden, which is a strange photograph to have.
They made her look like some kind of serial killer.
Yeah, the police were digging her garden up, which was a bit extreme.
It's come on.
Some people swear that's politically motivated because it is a bit over the top, but I mean. It makes the point that the SNP have been very disciplined, have been very clean for a long time.
And the SNP have long been a strong
very disciplined, very unified
in Westminster. Labour used to dominate Scotland.
Yes.
And in 2015, the SNP knocked Labour down to 1 seat in Scotland. Now,
Labour has now come back.
Labour is personally, I think, even though Labour has done many great victories against the Tories, I think their victories against the SNP have been much greater just in the speed. And what are the Tories on? What are the SNP on now? Could you scroll up to the top? Minus 39. There are 9 seats.
There are 9 seats left. Yeah. They minus 39. They lost that overnight. That was a huge defeat for them.
That shows the brutal.
And
nature.
they went through. So after Nicola Sturgeon stepped down, then they had a new leader, Hamza Yusuf, and
then Hamza Yusuf was like, I'm going to remove the
Greens.
I'm going to remove the Greens from this
coalition
agreement. I'm sure they'll be fine with it. Oh, they're backing a motion of no confidence against me. Like,
so they had depended on this they had this coalition. I mean, obviously the SNP did not need to form a coalition, but they did for consensus reasons.
They
needed
to after the 2021 election.
Oh right.
No, because they have a single transferable vote, so it's a lot harder.
Because it doesn't reflect the Westminster.
No. I'm not talking about the Westminster. I'm talking about in Holyrood.
Yeah. All right. So they had to have this. The Greens. What do you say? They went in a no confidence.
Yeah, they went in a no confidence vote, and then he was like, "Oh, time." Honestly, the whole Hamza Yusuf thing was one of the most politically inept things I've ever seen. No offense to the guy, but like, what did he think was going to happen?
The Greens were going to lie down and accept it. Anyway, then that happened, and then they had a new leader, and
they had a new leader, John Swinney, who was their leader in 2003. Fun fact.
So they recycled a bit like the Conservatives.
They did a David Cameron.
They coming back after all that time, and then they lost finally, and now Scotland has mostly gone against them. It would be interesting what happens to independence. They're trying to get a second referendum.
Yeah, I think that's for the birds now.
Right. Then we have...
No, I mean, we will come back to Northern Ireland. Don't worry. We now need to talk about Wales.
So Wales, again, is another place that's mostly been dominated by Labour for most of its history. A lot of leaders like Neil Kinnock come from that area.
I like Neil Kinnock. I was watching him during the election. The election coverage, and when George Galloway lost his seat, Neil Kinnock did like a fist bump in the air. He was like, "Yes, I detest that man." I was like, "You legend, Neil Kinnock."
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, George Galloway lost his seat.
Yeah.
And this is telling people of the internet. He didn't even show up to the count.
Yeah.
Even Liz Truss showed up to the count.
Yes. So.
But what we're saying about what? Oh yeah.
Labour used to dominate.
Plaid looking pretty strong. Plaid Cymru looking strong. And Plaid did very well in the debates. Me and you were actually quite keen on Plaid.
Well, not really keen on Plaid's policies.
Not keen on Plaid's view on... Here's the thing. I'm not going to say that because...
we're against the breaking up of the UK.
Yeah, no,
I mean, that's quite clear. We oppose all nationalist parties quite clearly. But to be fair, they did...
They did.
They didn't do anything bad during the campaign, which is pretty much the new standard now.
They didn't
have any racists, and they didn't destroy a coalition. They did not.
Then they didn't support the Red Army.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah. What about, we'll get to Galloway later. This was quite a catastrophe. So Labour got back a lot of seats in South Wales and some of North Wales. Lib Dems got 1 seat, and the Plaid Cymru only got 4 seats.
Yeah. And it's interesting It's interesting you see sometimes the strange games of election, and don't worry, we will come to Northern Ireland. I know you're dying to talk about all that. But some of the other strange games in election night is, if you look at where the Greens have
taken
won, it's not where you'd expect all the time.
Yeah, we've got
Bristol, which
usually Labour, right?
No, Bristol we kind of expect. They've got a strong showing in the council. With Bristol, it's interesting because the Bristol South MP is what's she called? Cara how do you say the surname?
Denver. That's what you mean, Bristol Central, right?
Bristol Central, but she took that seat from Thangan Debonair.
Yeah.
Who was look at the size of that constituency.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at North Herefordshire now, which is a very rural place. And we also have the Waveney Valley, again, it's somewhat rural. These you can say, okay, well, they're rural seats. And we did see in the council elections that a lot of these places turned green.
But also, the interesting thing about Thangan Debonair is she was a member of she was a Labour Party shadow minister, but she lost her seat.
Yes.
So she was the international business shadow minister, but she lost her seat, and she's not the only Labour shadow minister to have. So it's interesting when in both nights, in one night, both parties had ministerial
losses.
Because but still, like there were scalped. Both parties had members of their team scalped.
Yeah. In terms of moving on from Wales, which was as we say, gained by Labour, we have
on the subject, we have the Workers' Party, which were located in Rochdale. Whereabouts?
Yeah, we had
Rochdale, which which George Galloway only won 54 days before.
Yeah. So they got a seat in Birmingham, Preston, in Wakefield.
No, those are independents.
Oh, those are independents. Sorry. Where's the Workers' Party?
No, the Workers' Party's not on there because
Galloway lost his seat.
Because Galloway lost.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to. In case you can tell, we're not looking at a map. we're definitely we are looking at a map for reference. Wait, where's R? I'm dyslexic. Where's okay, there. Hang on, 1 minute. Where's Rochdale? Right again. Where's Rochdale? There it is. This is interesting because George Galloway in that image, he looks like he's deeply shocked by the result, doesn't
he? Yeah.
But Labour won that pretty resoundingly.
Yeah.
But
by 13,000 votes.
I mean,
compared to George Galloway's 11,000.
Considering George Galloway got a 20,000 majority a mere 54 days earlier.
Yeah, it was a by-election. But he does pick up on by-elections. That's the only time he gets it, usually.
That's what he does. But we are. So there were 12 ministerial or famous face scalps by the Tory party. Jacob Rees-Mogg, Penny Mordaunt, Gillian Keegan, Roy Stewart's favourite. They all lost their seat. But the biggest loss of the night for the Labour Party was Jonathan Ashworth. Now, Jonathan Ashworth was beaten by a group called the Gaza Independents.
Yeah.
Well, I'm calling them the Gaza.
They are independent MPs.
They're independent.
They fought their campaigns on Gaza. Or Gaza.
Because how do I put this diplomatically? The Labour Party has had a mixed bag on Gaza messaging.
Yeah. The Labour Party has been, the Labour leader has been very supportive of Israel, which has led led these seats to be lost.
I wouldn't lukewarm sport, but
not lukewarm.
No, the party's been lukewarm sport.
Anyway, these politicians have picked up on Labour's policy on Gaza, and have clearly. And it's interesting that this has not happened in Conservative seats as much. It's happened in Labour seats.
Yeah.
So that tells you what the Labour position is.
Yeah. No.
But, I mean,
I'm gotta push back on this for a minute. I'm sorry, but I'm not.
Well, it hasn't happened in.
The Tories aren't exactly friends of Palestine.
No, they haven't been. So it's quite interesting how they've managed to let this happen. For Conservatives have actually been in government while the Gaza crisis has gone on and have been very supportive of Israel, and yet the Labour has managed to lose their seats to Gaza Independence. So that says something about their stance.
Labour lost 4 seats to Gaza Independence. Wait, if you scroll a little bit back to the United Kingdom, they lost Preston.
Yeah, Bolton West. Dewsbury and Batley.
Wait, if you zoom out.
You got Leicester South. Birmingham. Perry Bar.
Could we have a look at some of these majorities? I'll be interesting to see how.
Look at the Batley.
How secure they are.
How securely
these independents now.
So 15,000 votes versus 8,000 is the next runner-up.
Okay, so
very, very
strong they are
victory.
Pretty secure.
Very strong victory. And if just look at just one other one, let's look at a one in London.
Jeremy Corbyn. Now, Jeremy Corbyn's.
So Jeremy Corbyn's seat. He won.
By now, all polls suggested it was going to be quite tight.
But he won 24,000 votes versus 16,000 as the next runner-up. So he won a large. 24,000 is
it was interesting when I was at the election party. When he won, people didn't know whether to cheer or not.
Almost half of his constituency voted for him.
Well,
nearly 49%.
And that personal appeal is unheard of in British politics.
Yeah, 49%. That's that. So he won basically 50% of his
so is it Leicester South?
Yeah, Leicester South.
Jonathan Ashworth.
Another independent. Jonathan Ashworth. He was a member of Parliament for Leicester South. Yeah. In Leicester South. Let me see. We had
Shot Adam.
Shokat Adam. He had 14,000 votes versus the 13,000, so he was very close. It was
so actually
he won by 1,000, by almost not even 1,000 votes.
Oh, so that one actually was pretty tight.
Yeah, especially because he was such a key Labour figure. They put a lot of resources in this.
Yeah, like he was the work and pensions
minister.
shadow minister.
Sorry.
And he was a close member of the inner Starmer circle.
Yes.
Also, now one thing I will say, it was interesting at that Labour Party when Corbyn won, people were like, yay, and then someone said, don't cheer, where's your party loyalty?
Yeah.
Now, shall we talk about the only Conservative gain of the night?
Okay.
It's also in Leicester.
Mid Leicestershire? No? Oh, Leicester East.
Leicester East.
Leicester East.
Now that's an interesting story because if you scroll down, Claude, Claudia Webb was the former Labour Party candidate who ran, who got removed from the party because she got a suspended sentence for harassing her ex-husband's girlfriend.
Yeah.
But because she got given a suspended sentence, she could still run as an independent.
Yeah.
She ran on a pro-Gaza ticket. What's it called? Keith Vaz, the former Labour, if you scroll down, the former Labour MP who'd resigned a few years earlier, ran on a pro-Gaza ticket.
Yeah.
And fun fact about him, he's famous. He had to resign because he got filmed whilst a member of the drugs select committee. He got filmed trying to buy cocaine from male sex workers. So clearly there's something in the water with them and their MPs in this area. But what I'm saying is it's weird because there were two pro-Gaza candidates and a Labour Party candidate, it weirdly split the vote to create the only Conservative gain. Because how... Yeah, no, that's why I just thought this one was
by 4,000 and a half, nearly 4,000 and a half sort of votes. So it's quite a big Conservative victory.
It's a strong Hindu area. I mean, half the candidates in that.
Yeah, ethnicity is interesting in the UK. It's not very important compared to America, but usually the Muslims vote in Labour. In terms of religion, the Muslims vote Labour, and the Hindus are very relatively conservative, which is why we had many Hindu ministers, prime minister.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's why Keith Vaz was key when he was big in the Labour movement, because he was a key figure in the Hindu
group.
Group.
Anyway,
scene.
Shall we just
social?
Shall we move on to
in a minute. But one thing I really want to nail down is quite how shocking it is for independents to win in the UK. Independents never win in the UK.
Well, they do win, but not that often.
No, I know, but it's like twice since 1950 have independents won in the UK.
Really?
Yeah. Like, independents never win at a general election.
Right.
Because this isn't even a by-election. But this shows the strength of feeling.
Oh, the general election, yeah. They did come in sometimes in by-elections, like occasionally.
But like what I'm saying is, this shows the strength of feeling of the Gaza issue. in the northeast. Well, not just the northeast, but I'm using the northeast as a point because it's got a large Muslim population. And do you think?
Well, this was not so much northeast. This is Wakefield. That was in the northwest. That one, Blackburn.
Okay, yeah, no. Well, I'm bad at geography.
Yeah, that's more northwest, I'd say. Anyway.
But what I'm trying to get across is, I saw this coming a mile away. I knew Labour were going to lose seats because of the Gaza issue. Do you think they saw this coming and just didn't care, or do you think they're genuinely surprised? What's your take
on the independents?
Yeah,
of course they care because they've got to care, otherwise they're stuck.
No. What I'm talking about is Labour. Do you think they saw this coming? Because I knew someone was going to fill the void if Labour didn't change their position on Gaza. I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, but I think...
Do you think Labour are just like, oh my God, we lost seats? Oh, because, I
think they must have been surprised. I really don't
think. But you could see it coming a mile away.
For us, maybe. But I think it wasn't inevitable. Look, these are very upstart candidates. They had some community support, but they were not running for a party. They were very grassroots.
They were grassroots with a capital G.
There's no inevitability about independents winning. I think it was definitely an uphill battle for them, but I think Labour hasn't immediately responded to that, especially because it would interfere with their election victory. They're at a high at the moment. They don't want to admit that they've lost a lot of voters.
And I personally believe that independents are good for local democracy.
Yeah, so occasionally be able to bring in independents to general elections.
Because an independent voice is
useful.
Now, speaking of independent voices, Northern Ireland.
Well, there is an independent.
No, well, yeah, I don't know anything about them.
In North Down, there's an independent gain. They gained from the Alliance Party.
What are they called?
This independent, Alex Easton.
I'm going to Google.
He won by
a
large.
That's
7,000, more than 7,300.
Well, you sir have earned to Google.
Yeah, he's very. But I we haven't been following that much the independents and all that Northern Ireland. But what's interesting is that Sinn Féin have kept their majority, although they don't go in Westminster. You said, but
they don't go in Westminster.
But they do in terms of even the northern. So they have a majority in Westminster. I mean, they have one.
Yeah.
They don't not there. They have also a majority in the Northern Irish
Assembly. Which the Northern Irish Assembly, which is Stormont, and which is currently up and running. The DUP had a difficult night because it's always difficult because their leader, Jeffrey Donaldson, had left under a cloud. Oh no, they're still holding pretty strong.
Well, they've got eight seats.
No, they lost one to the Alliance, I believe.
Yeah.
No, they lost two. They lost one to TV as well, which I will get back to in a minute.
Yeah.
The one there, because it's always tough when their leader. When their leader they lost three. It's useful that they
five seats. So they lost three there, but the DUP was the main unionist voice. They actually weren't even participating in the Northern Irish Assembly
Yeah,
for a
because
Sinn Féin lost and they threw a huge tantrum.
no, Sinn Féin won.
Oh,
They
won,
were just
sorry.
like, no!
Sinn Féin won. There was a large, I think it was tantrum like their response
Yeah,
to
no,
Sinn Féin's
they
victory.
were just like, no.
Because nationalists don't usually win Northern Irish Assembly.
Yeah, they were just like, no, we're not going to play, basically.
Yeah.
And also, it was difficult for them, this election in particular, because Jeffrey Donaldson, their former leader, had to resign currently because he's in a spot of legal trouble. Now, long-time viewers of this podcast may remember your old friend Ian Paisley. Now, Ian Paisley Jr. lost his seat in the general election, and it's the traditional Unionist Voice party. Now that seat, North Antrim, had been held by a member of the Paisley family for 50 years.
Since Ian Paisley set up the DUP itself.
Yeah, that.
It's DUP's home turf, or at least their birthplace, basically.
And I'm trying to explain and look how close it was.
Yeah, and they only lost by 400 something votes.
And
they got 28. So the victor, Jim Alistair, traditional Unionist Voice, got 28% of the votes. The vote share.
But also, it's interesting about Jim Alistair. He is a hardline Unionist. He is a Unionist till he dies. He's anti-peace process.
And I wonder, we haven't really been following Northern Irish enough, or at least I haven't.
No.
You know more about it than me.
Let me explain let me explain the TUV.
Yeah.
The TUV say the DUP are moderates. He calls Ian Paisley Senior a moderate.
Well, towards the end, he showed a slightly more moderate... But I think that was not really his true beliefs anyway, later on.
I'm just trying to give you a flavour.
But yeah.
I'm trying to give you a flavour of what Jim Alistair's like.
It is one.
Picture a hardline Unionist. Picture this community will not...
Yeah, he's the main... And if you look at... I mean, and then maybe the DP has been worried about this party for a while. I don't know whether they've been in Northern Ireland for any amount of time or not. I don't know. But anyway, we have SDLP.
They're basically Sinn Féin, but they take their seats.
Yeah, and they're more. Yeah, so Sinn Féin and SDLP are more like left wing, and the Unionists are usually more to the right.
Yeah, and the Alliance are a non-sectarian party.
Alliance Party, yeah.
Set up by the Lib Dems.
And they used to, I believe, they used to have North Down.
They had 2 seats.
No, they used to have North Down. They lost to the
I will definitely look up Alex. See what side of the.
Yeah, we'll look up. But
no, just because it'll be interesting to see whether he takes a seat or not.
All right. Anyway.
What's this? Great South Antrim.
Oh, South Antrim was Ulster Unionist Party gained from.
No, Ulster Unionist.
The UUP.
They're your more moderate DUP.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the scale of unionism, you've got the traditional Unionist Voice. They're the
furthest off this.
I mean,
on the scale.
if it makes, just to put it into scale, what's it called? Jim Alistair, when he goes into Parliament, he wants to take the Reform whip. So he wants to be a whip for reform. So that tells you all you need to know about
Yeah. So then you got the UUP the DUP is in the middle of them.
Yeah.
And then the UUP is towards the centre, close to the national. So, yeah. So that's Northern Ireland's quite an interesting place.
And no move on the alliance, or have the alliance lost?
The alliance, they've got
No, I mean the SDLP.
the SDLP.
The
they have two.
So are they just non-movers?
Yeah, that's a hold, and they've got a hold as well. So yeah, 2 seats.
So they've not lost anyone.
They've not lost any. Well, they've not gained anything. No, they've not gained.
They've not
any
gained
seats.
anything, but they've not lost anything either. But yes. So yeah.
Anyway, that was our very long
discussion on Northern Ireland. Now, I'm gonna briefly talk about the state of play. I'm gonna talk about. Can we go to Clacton real quick and just?
Oh, we could hop in the car and.
No, we could actually.
No, not right now. But yeah, Reform UK.
I'm just going to briefly touch on.
Nigel
Look
Farage.
at that! That like
the majority of at least 10,000 votes.
I'm so glad I didn't canvass that. I mean, that would have been a wasted.
I mean, 46%. So he nearly got half the percentage.
That
almost half of the voting people in that city voted for him.
That is.
And he won that last time as well.
No, we didn't win that last.
Did he not?
No, he's never been an MP.
Oh.
He's been a member of the.
European Parliament.
He's tried 8 times to get into Parliament.
Yeah.
Personal highlight of the night. Well, not personal highlight because the Tories won, but anyway. The Labour BBC News gave Ian Duncan Smith a -1% chance of winning. He ended up proceeding to win his seat because the Labour vote had been split between. Could you get Ian Duncan Smith's seat up, which is it's got a C in it and then a W. Hang on. Dyslexia is far.
Ian Duncan Smith.
Yeah,
I don't know which city
it's in London.
Okay. That's great.
Hang on. I can get it up here. Dyslexia is fun, kids.
Alright.
No.
You'll have to do that yourself.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is the Labour Party candidate, they had one candidate and then they unselected her for some reason.
Yeah.
And then because they unselected her, she suddenly, out of nowhere, had really strong feelings towards Labour's Gaza policy. It's ironic because 5 weeks earlier she was happy to campaign for Labour. Then the minute she gets deselected, then she's like, Labour moved to the right. I'm like, you were happy to campaign for Labour.
Yeah, but this is politics, isn't it? You can't. I guess the thing is, they can't. They have to say that there was a moment. There was that moment where I realised.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I mean, you can't say I've always known. Otherwise,
but like,
it's not right.
But the point I'm trying to make is, she ended up splitting the vote, which made him retain his seat because she ran as a popular independent, which undercut the Labour vote, and then he was able to retain his seat, which was one of the more interesting events of the night. Now, can I just talk about where we moved from here?
All right.
Can I talk about Labour's cabinet?
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Keir Starmer is not just not just instituted its full shadow cabinet. Like, it's not just
it's not carried over most of its ministers.
Most of its ministers. The big changes include people such as Emily Thornberry, who was the shadow justice minister. She'd been removed and replaced by what's he called? What up? Could you?
Justice.
Yeah. The shadow attorney general, which is attorney general. My mistake. Not justice minister. Richard Hammer. Who is not a MP. He's not so he will be put in as the House of Lords. This is something I am greatly supportive of, because I'm fed up of people making MPs ministers. They need to make they need to make experts ministers.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Richard Hammer is he's a long outspoken critic of Israel.
Yeah.
Which,
so that's part of the choice, is it?
No, which is interesting because if you look at his views on the Gaza siege, they don't exactly align with Keir Starmer's previous statements. Some people could view this as a potential sea change in Gaza policy.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we've got quite a lot of we're going to have a few changes because one of the ministers at least did not even survive.
Two ministers.
Two ministers did not.
Two ministers didn't make it out, but other experts, other interesting ministerial picks include David Lammy. He was shadow minister, but Foreign Secretary. Yvette Cooper, a Blairite, someone from the Blair years, but she's been long.
Yeah, Pat McFadden is another Blair. Well, he was also one of the.
Yeah. Was this bad?
He was, yeah. He was a political advisor but he's now been made an actual, MP and minister.
Speaking of Blair returns, Jackie Smith. Who famously got caught out in the expenses scandal, is being brought back to the Lords as Universities Minister.
Right. Yeah.
Which I'm more in favour of. Let's bring more experts back into Lords. I don't like my ministers to be MPs. I like my ministers to be experts. What's your view on that?
I think so. Yeah, I'm not really that enamored. I just laughed because it was very controversially said. But I think Parliament has a duty to be representative. I don't necessarily think the Cabinet does, but that's a very, very odd view because people are very definitely celebrating the fact there's lots of women, like for example the first women Chancellor Rachel Reeves, and the diversity. Sure, you can have it, but when it comes to the executive, I'm not that bothered with it.
But here's the thing, that I personally believe it's a different set of skills being an MP from being a minister. What I mean is, because you need area expertise. You need to know, because the amount of times in a reshuffle, ex-minister has been made health minister. And like a career politician doesn't know about health, but an ex-GP does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see, like, you've got that level of experience. Another key appointment of Starmer's is James Timpson as prison minister. Are you aware of the chain Timpsons?
No.
It's a chain that does watch repair and shoe cleaning and just various bits and pieces like that.
Okay.
And what they do, I mean, I'd recommend looking them up. They employ 15% of former prisoners. Like they create, and their job is to create employment for former prisoners. And he's also chairman of the Prison Reform Network, so he really understands prison policy, if that makes sense. Like he's a prison expert. So I think he was interesting because he was talking, and when he was talking, you know what you said the other day about having less prisoners and making some of them work more.
Right.
Because we have a prison overcrowding crisis.
Right.
You know, he's very much along those lines, and he made.
We've got another Ben. As well.
Hello.
We've got another Ben.
Guess who his dad was?
No, don't tell me. Really?
No, I'm not joking.
Boris Johnson. I'm joking.
Hillary Benn, Northern Ireland minister. But yeah, no, I think James Timpson will bring some welcome experience to the cabinet, and I think people need to bring in more apolitical ministers, or at least non-political ministers, to get the job done. What do you think about that? I think it's more intelligence over party politics.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, all of them are going to be Keir Starmer supporters, major ones. So I think you've got to have both. I think it's a choice between the two. But, yeah. Anyway, it would be interesting to see what happens out of this election.
Like, I mean, also, I mean, another key ministerial appointment which really caught my eye the other day was the appointment of Patrick Vallance, the former chief science officer for the government, and Chris Whitty's right-hand man as Labour's science minister.
Yeah.
So that shows that they are really focusing on intellect over political appointment.
I feel like they're probably doing both, aren't they? But they're definitely experience is a key factor.
Yeah.
I don't think they've traded that for political loyalty.
No. Like, they're not gonna.
They've managed to align them, which is the best position to be in for a leader.
Yeah, I know, and I just think.
And there are no major competitors because Labour has not been in power, and Corbyn is out because of Keir Starmer. So Keir Starmer basically kicked him out.
Here's the thing: he's out, but he's in. He will still be a thorn in the side.
Yeah, but he basically it was like a devil girl sort of from below. He was like a coup. So he's not like Rishi Sunak where he has to put in his opponents. And I think that was quite funny how Rishi Sunak, he brought in, this is quite common in the UK, right? He brought in his opposition, Penny Mordaunt, and then decided during the election, he'll make her pay for the running against him by putting her in all of the leadership debates and let her get battered.
And then let her get battered, and she lost her seat as well.
She lost her seat.
You know who else lost her seat? Liz Truss. Now that is
good. That warms the soul.
That does warm the soul. And that, something that does annoy me about Liz Truss losing her seat? She didn't do a concession
Concession. Concession. Yes.
She did not concede at the declaration. She just walked off.
Yeah.
That's not the British way.
But she must have known. I mean, that's the general way, isn't it? The leader or politician. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. She's gone.
Thank God.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So.
I think that mostly explains.
I think that mostly wraps up our ramblings. There may be more episodes coming shortly, because.
Yeah, there may be more things coming up. We're both back here.
Obviously, we're trying to. Obviously, it's logistically dependent on outside parties and so on.
Yes. So, but we'll try to get.
We can't promise anything. But stuff might be coming.
It was a good discussion, right?
Yeah, no, we had a lot of fun. I hope you found this ramble interesting. If you didn't,
fair enough.
If you didn't, why are you here?
Well, it's after an hour.
like if you didn't respect for staying here, but respect, that's George Galloway's old party. Also, George, if you hear this, I know you'll have a bit more free time, but have fun in you and the Red Army Appreciation Society.
Alright, that's enough. Let's not bungle it at the end.
No.
Well, actually, I don't know how many Workers' Party people are gonna really watch this. Who cares?
You guys aren't a force. You got
Okay. All right, man. You feel a bit threatened.
No, I'm not threatened. I'm by
the vote share. All right. Let's leave it there.
Yeah. Anywho, cheery bye from us.